Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. We're into March here. My name's Peter. Welcome to Houdini Hangout. Thanks for joining us. Hope everybody's having a great start to their weekend. If your weekend has started already or is about to start, we are doing a MOPs Monday stream, but on a Friday, which is obviously a little bit different here than usual. So, wasn't feeling super great. I still kind of am not feeling great. I don't know how to say that properly, even though I speak English. But, we're here. We're doing it. I see Pudding was in the chat saying it's midnight and I got to work tomorrow. Wow, that's rough, man. Got to work on a Saturday. No fun at all. So we're here. We're going to be looking at some different MOPs related things. And we'll kind of play around and see what we can get up to. Hey, KG, how's it going, man? Welcome to the stream. For tonight, we'll see how long kind of we go for here. I don't know how long the stream will go for. I've got some ideas of what I'd like to try to do. We'll see how it goes, see how everything works out, and then we'll kind of play it by ear. But my idea tonight was to use some MOPs based stuff. Hey Zach, how's it going, man? Use some MOPs based stuff to do some animations and be able to maybe get some interesting effects going within Houdini, using some more motion graphics-y types things, so hopefully this will be of interest to you if you do that kind of stuff, or even if you don't, maybe we'll get to some stuff that's a little different for people tonight. I don't have a ton to say. The one thing I did want to mention, speaking of MOPs and of Toadstorm, Mr. Henry, if you haven't seen his recent blog post that he did, you should take a look. He did this lovely blog post here. I feel like Vanna White. I'll not cut my hand off. So he made this cool post called "Dops Are Not Sops" and explained some of the differences between them, which is really helpful. I think it's a really great read. Has a lot of fun GIFs in it, and it's a good walkthrough of a bunch of different things that happen within DOPS and why they don't work the same as they do in SOPs. And so it's a pretty cool read. I think it'll be really good for you, and I'm glad that he did that because it's obviously something that can take a bit of time to explain, and Henry is very knowledgeable about these types of things. So it's great. Good to I can't say for sure that the whole blog rhymes, Zach, but that would be interesting. It would certainly be quite a task, especially with the length of that blog, as you saw. So that's a pretty good read if you have the time to do so. Anyways, I guess that's about the only things I wanted to mention. I mean, also today is the beginning of Mardini. If you're haven't started that or played around with that, or are thinking about doing it, maybe this will encourage you to do it. But I can't say enough good things about having a little challenge like that for yourself. Little is maybe in quotes, it's definitely not a little challenge, but it's great to give yourself something like that to do every day. And I got a lot out of doing Mardini in 2021, and it was just really great for me personally and professionally. So I highly recommend it. A lot of cool stuff will be made during that time. So take a look at what's out there, and you can kind of keep track of all the posts and things like that. I would just don't give yourself too much crazy stuff to do every day if you are looking to do it. Yeah, it is cool to see the ideas for sure. I mean, sometimes it can be a little tricky with the nodes, because sometimes you're like, what am I going to do with this? That's really weird. But yeah, I mean, it's a good way to kind of get yourself outside of your comfort zone, try new things. And honestly, what it encouraged me to do was to post even if I wasn't like totally happy with the result, just to get the post out there. And that really helped me like kind of get into the mindset of doing what I'm doing right here, where it's like doing something even though it might not work out. So so yeah, so that's, I think it's just a great thing to do and fun to kind of play around with. And yeah, so for tonight, like I said, we're going to do some mop stuff. I'm certainly not an expert at mops at all. I'm kind of learning and kind of playing around with it here just live to kind of help other people maybe learn about it and do that kind of stuff. So, you know, it sometimes is a little bit of like a challenge for me. So, you know, be warned, this is more me experimenting with stuff and learning, you know, with all of you, not just coming here with some grand explanation. And sometimes Henry has hopped into the chat to correct me along the way as I go, which I'm super grateful for, because sometimes I'm like, boy, I feel like a real dummy. So I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, so tonight I've got some ideas for what we're going to do. I'm hoping that they will work the way I'm intending for them to. And so, yeah, I think what we're going to do is try to like do some guided, like sort of like maybe like these little balloons or something like that. We'll see where we get with it, but I'm just thinking about like something, you know, I just want to do something sort of interesting with kind of guiding objects around in space and then driving a simulation with that. Obviously, I think that might be something that you could already, you know how to do. Maybe it's not, but hopefully we'll come across some interesting new things, and we can go with it from there. Oh, hey, Yorgi, welcome to the stream. Nice to have you here. Yeah, so MOPs is a tool set built by a couple of folks that have been in the Houdini community for a number of years, and they came from, or at least have worked in places where, you know, we have more motion graphics stuff and come from like sort of C4D backgrounds. At least one of them does. I don't know if both of them do. But regardless, the idea was to make a motion operators, like basically like motion graphics operators. Think the MoGraph tools in Houdini or in C4D. It's kind of in that world, right? So so the idea there is that we're using the idea of packed primitives within Houdini, and you know, whether or not you know what those are is fine. It's not a big deal. But basically what we do is we kind of turn all of our geometry into these special packed geometries. And that allows us to do some really interesting stuff with them. Very similar to what you can do in cinema and things like that. And this is a tool set that was developed by people that aren't with side effects. And so there's part of it that's free, that's just regular MOPs, and there's MOPs Plus, which is paid. So if you see me put down a MOPs Plus node, that's going to be a paid node. So just keep that in mind. It's not something I'm like saying, hey, you have to go buy this or anything like that. But I think it's a cool tool set, and I was playing around with it a little bit, and I was like, you know, this is worth like kind of bringing it out to people out there. I mean, it's been around for a while, and there's a lot of really cool tools in it. Some of them have actually been kind of not superseded by things that Side Effects has done, but there are newer tools than some of the ones that are in there that are actually from Side Effects. So take a look at the Motion Operators website. You can find that at motionoperators.com. And here, I'll just jump this over here. So this is the Motion Operators, or MOPs website. And yeah, so there's Motion Operators. You can get this at GitHub. There's MOPs Plus. You can purchase it. I think for the where are we here? Okay, there we go. For the indie, it's $100 a year, so it's a really good price for it. It's got a lot of really interesting tools. There's a ton of example files built in with it, and really, the MOPs Plus will allow you to do more of this kind of stuff, right? Where you've got random spheres shooting around and like differing geometries and all different things like that. So yeah, so that's kind of the idea here, is with this tool set, it allows you to do some interesting things with it. And even the instancer, you'll hear Henry talk about that either on his Discord or here, if he's in the chat ever, like he'll say like the instancer isn't necessary for working with MOPs. Like there are things that it does that are really helpful if you want to do them, but it's not a necessity. So just something to keep in mind. So anyways, that's MOPs. You can get some of it for free. Some of it is paid. And there's a lot of tutorials and documentation on it. There's example files, like in the files that you download, there's examples and stuff like that. We've done some streams in the past of going through them. And, yeah, so there's some cool stuff on here, and, yeah, some good stuff to take a look at. But, I guess we should just kind of dive into this here. So I guess we'll just dive into Houdini and start getting working. If you guys have any questions or thoughts or comments or anything like that, happy to answer your questions. There's no dumb questions here, so please feel free to drop them in the chat. Yeah, so anything is kind of open, for discussion. Obviously, I think last stream, Mirko asked me if he thought we were alone in the universe, and I gave an interesting answer to that. That was as best an answer as I could. But I should say any Houdini question is within limits, and yeah, and I'm not going to be like, well, that's a dumb question. That's just not how we operate here. So, anyways, feel free to drop a comment in the chat and stuff like that. Sorry if I'm a little spacey today. I am still a little sick, so my brain is a little foggy, but also it's Friday, so it's a little weird, and like, I don't know, I just feel a little out of sorts. But anyways, we will do our best here. So what I did actually before I was, kind of getting ready for this was I knew I wanted to use this MOPs move along spline. And if you're ever like going to work with something in MOPs, I think it's a really good idea to like look at the examples first, because like this is just called move along spline hip. And actually, I'm gonna just set this to my normal mode so I kind of feel a little bit more regular here. Okay. And so you can go into these different modes and kind of see what's going on here. This is kind of moving a bunch of instances along a spline. And you can see some different options here. I believe wrap, we can turn that off if we wanted to, and that'll just move them along, and it won't wrap them along to the beginning. There's a bunch of different things here that you can take a look at. We can take a look at some of these other things here. Instance on a curve with offset. And this is sort of what we're going to be doing, I think, in ours. So here you can see that we have a MOPs instancer, a MOPs randomize, and then we're going to move along the spline, right? So so these are just some of the ways that we can do these things, right? So so we can use the MOPs instancer. We can use a whole bunch of different things here. Here we're distributing it along a spline and, doing some things like that. So there's a lot of different cool things that we could do here. So I think what we're going to do is something, it won't be close to that, but we're going to use the spiral node, because that's actually the what do you call it? This is a really cool one too, by the way. I haven't gone in and like checked this all out, but it's pretty interesting. It's kind of a cool little effect. So you can always take a look at that one in there too. Anyway, so this is one of the example files. So if you're ever interested in these types of things, jump in, take a look at what Henry set up here, because these are obviously pretty cool examples, right? Like this is pretty neat. And so, yeah, so cool examples there. So I think what we're going to do is use the spiral and try to do something interesting with that. So we'll see kind of where we get with that. All right. So, let's see here. Let's see how we're going to do this. All right. So let's do our geometry. And I think what we're going to do is maybe, thinking maybe we'll do like a balloon on a string. That's my thought here. And we'll have those kind of go along, a spline basically. And so I think I'm just trying to think of how exactly I want to do this. I think what we're going to do is, first we'll start and just make maybe a simple example of it. Maybe we'll just do a slightly elongated sphere or something like that, just with a line basically. So let's do that. That'll be our balloon, quote unquote. So let's do this. Let's just do a sphere. We'll grab some polygons here. We'll change it to polygon. I always like this better because I feel like it's a lot more even and can be a little easier to kind of mess around with. And let's see here. Isn't there a... Just trying to think. There's a deformer. What is the one I want? Bend, sculpt, smooth. Okay. All right, so let's do something here. So we'll do the capture direction like this, maybe. Yeah, there we go. I knew there was something in there like that. Cool. All right, so we got a little balloon going on here. That's fine. And then let's do a... Let's see. We'll do a match size here just to get this onto the ground plane. So I'm just going to do a minimum here. This obviously is not anything MOPs related. We're just going to make some geometry to work with here. So there's our balloon. Let's do a line. Line. And we're going to, I don't know, maybe, well, first of all, actually this sphere is probably way too big. So let's match this size. Let's see if that's a meter. Let's do it like, we'll change this down to like 1/10 of a meter and we'll scale it to fit, something like that. 2/10 of a meter. That's probably fine. It's a little smaller. We'll give it like 1 meter string, 3-foot string. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. And how big is this? Let me just think about this here. Scale axis. We'll do it along the X just to make sure that it's right like that. Cool. Yeah, that looks good. All right. So what I'm going to do here is just do one more match size. And what I can do with that is have it match with that and do maximum to minimum. Is that right? No. There we go. Minimum to maximum like that. And then we can have those two together and they'll be like a little balloon. Maybe we'll make this a little, maybe make the balloon a little bigger. Yeah, that feels good. And I'm just doing this so it's like a procedural setup. And then we can take the line. Let's see, how many points do we want on this? Maybe like 8 is good. And then we'll just shift click both of those together and we'll get them like that. Cool. So, that's a great, wow. Guess we're in we've gotten to the most basic question here. I just noticed that. Sorry. What is Houdini? Houdini is a software package that allows for all sorts of different 3D stuff to be done in it. simulation, lighting, look dev, rendering, modeling, all sorts of different things can be done in here, even like task and pipeline type stuff for studios. It's used a lot in large studios, but it is a very powerful tool for working with 3D. So anyway, so here's our balloon. That's a great question. I'm glad you found the stream somehow. Welcome to the stream. Hopefully I answered that in time for you. So, all right, so we've got our points here. Cool. And we'll do 10. We'll give it a couple more points. And what I'm going to do is just make groups for both of these, because that's kind of important when you're going through, when you're going through the Vellum setup, because then that way you can kind of address each of these separately. So this first one I'm just going to call balloon. Can I spell balloon? Balloon, and then, oh, actually this one's the string, sorry. And this one is going to be the balloon. All right, cool. So we've got balloon, we've got string, merge them together, null, and then I'm just going to say out balloon. I think that's spelled right. I'm terrible at spelling, so let me know if I spelled it wrong. One of the things that separates it from a lot of other software, to answer your question, is it's kind of completely unlocked to the user. There isn't really anything hidden away. It's all node based, first of all, which is really pretty different. You can't do anything without having nodes. And it allows you to have a level of control that not a lot of other softwares are able to. So that's kind of, I think, the big difference between it. So yeah, how often do I go live? I usually am live on Wednesdays. That's my normal day. And then every other week, I usually do one of these more motion graphics oriented streams where I do these MOPs Mondays, MOPs Monday streams. So that's kind of the difference here. But, so normally, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to start using this tool set called MOPs, and that's part of what I'm going to be doing here. So, let's do this. Let's do a geo here. So each of these nodes here, I'm at the object level, so I'm making a new geometry object. So here I'm going to just say geo and call this MOPs like MOPs manipulation. So this is going to, or no, you know what? I'll say MOPs anim, something like that. Because we'll probably take this and then bring this into our sim. So I'm going to color that light purple because that's always kind of like a helper thing for simulation in my mind. So, all right, so let's do an object merge. We're going to bring in our geometry from another part of the network. So we're going to bring in that geometry that we just set up, kind of bring it over here so we've got a new fresh place to start working with some things and kind of isolate. So we've got we're going to say get balloon geo. And so what I'm going to do now, we can do a few different things, right? We could use the instancer. Let's try that actually first. So we've got our instancer here, right? And so now this is going to start setting up copies of this geometry for us, right? And we can control the distribution here. We could say, do it in a line, do it in a radial type manner, do it in a grid. There's a lot of different things that we could do here. There's a couple, I'm trying to think of maybe the best ways of going about doing this. I think what I want to do is have these balloons kind of randomly go around in a spiral, right? And kind of spiral maybe upwards or something like that. So let's first start with maybe where they're going to begin, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, we'll see kind of where we get with this. But one thing, well, actually, first of all, I'm going to get myself a drink real quick, and then we can keep going from there. So one thing to notice here is that when I put this into the instancer, you now see that there are points down at the bottom here, right? You can see these points are sort of down at the bottom. And if I hit D and go into my guides and turn up the point marker size, we can see that that's kind of the point that now exists. So these balloons now, you can see, are all kind of controlled by, they're all one kind of grouped geometry, right? We've kind of grouped this all into this one like origin point here. So that's the idea of what we're doing with our instancer. We can also do this other ways too. We could also pack this geometry. What we could do is we could do something like this, where we could take a circle with polygons. Let's just use a polygonal circle. We'll do this on the XZ plane. And let's maybe make this a little smaller. So similar. Let's just up the divisions. It doesn't really matter, but we'll just up the divisions a little bit more to make it smoother. So what I'm creating here is a circle, right? Just a straightforward circle. And what we're going to do is scatter some points in it. This is a pretty standard thing for Houdini, right? So we're going to scatter some points, maybe not that many, maybe we'll do like 100, right? So there's a bunch of points. Then if we use a copy to points with this, this allows a very similar setup. Now, this is sort of this is more or less what's happening inside of this MOPs instance. There's stuff going on inside of here, a ton of things. What we can do is we can take our geometry and we can have our target points. And so now we could copy it like this. And if we tick on, this pack and instance, we can see now that we have a very similar setup to what we had before. And all I'm going to do is change this pivot location to the, why is it doing that? That's weird. That's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm not sure why it's doing that. It should be taking it from the origin, I would think, but I don't know why it's not. But anyways, there is a, so these are now able to be tweaked with MOPs, right? So we could do MOPs randomize and drop this down. And these are going to say, if we wanted to randomize the position, we could give this a little bit of values here, and it's going to randomize those and move them around, right? The other thing we could do is change the MOPs pivot, I believe. And that should allow us to, there we go. So this will set the pivot to the position that we had before. So we can actually change the pivots of these packed objects that we were talking about. So that, in my mind, makes a little more sense, because now if we randomize the orientation, they're randomizing from those points instead of from some random middle point in there. So here you can see we can kind of randomize these and do all sorts of crazy, wacky things with them. So yeah, we can kind of play around, do a bunch of interesting things here. For example, we could change this to be negative, like, just negative 45, and then 45, 45, 45, something like that. You know, you can do these all sorts of different ways. So I could turn this off. I could randomize orientation. Yeah. So there's a bunch of different things that we could do here, right? But anyways, this is now we're starting to be in MOPs world. So we're gonna work with these and start playing around. Now, I think what we could do here is, let's see here. Yeah, quite a few points there. All right, so let's do this. We're going to grab a bunch of these points, right? And maybe we'll do like 25 of them. And what we could probably do here is start like this, and we'll kind of work from there. So let's take these. Maybe 25 is fine. We'll give that a shot. We could also do this setup here as well with 25. That works pretty well also. Well, we can play around with both of them and see the differences between them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the spiral node, I believe it is. Yep, spiral. So this is a curve, right? Kind of similar to the Houdini logo, right? And so we have a MOPs tool that will, let's see, move MOPs move along spline, right? So what we can do is we can take this, and now we're kind of off to the races here. So we can take our spline, which is going to be this, and then we can take our packed primitives, which are our MOPs instances, right? And so what we can do here is, so if we want to do this properly, we can do a few different things, but what we can do is kind of now control this based on these points being attached more or less to this curve. So let's make this curve a little bit bigger because we want to get something that we can work with a little better. So that's cool. Maybe 2.5 is probably good. And what I did here is I just inverted the tangents on this just to make sure that it was pointing in the right direction that we wanted it to be. So what we want to do here is, so what we could do is a few different things, right? We could distribute it along the spline, right? We could also set it to be the nearest point. We can also maintain the offset from this, right? So in this case, they're going to start with their offset, and then if we animate it along the spline, they're going to kind of go around it, right? Like that. And they're going to get to the end, and I'm going to undo wrap because then they should just stay at the end. Right? So that is kind of the idea of what we're going to do here. So what we can do is we can actually keep this... we can maintain the offset from this original. So you can see right now they're starting in the same place. If we turn this down, it's going to try to find the closest point on the curve. So this might even be able to be visualized a little bit better if we switch it over to this option here. Let's see. And so now we're getting a little error. And the reason for that is we don't have an ID point attribute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a enumerate, which is just going to allow us to add some point number or some IDs to this. So I'm just going to change this to ID, change this to points, and now we should be all good. Cool. And so I'm also going to do that MOPs, I think pivot. I'm going to do that as well, just to set that up properly. Yep, thank you. And we can just say set pivot local. There we go. So now we've got those set up. This might work a little bit better just because they're a little bit more distributed here. And if I make this spiral maybe just a little bigger, and I'm just going to offset this a little bit so that we're kind of lined up to start. So if we take this here and yeah, that should work. So now what we can do is we can animate these along this spline. So we can say along the goal, and we'll move them along the spline like this, right? And I'm going to hide. I'm going to go up here and hide other objects so we don't see that random one that's still stuck there. But yeah, you can see that we're going kind of along this path here. And as we animate it through, we're going to hit those things. And so part of what we're running into here is that these are a little bit too close to each other. So it's having a little bit of a hard time kind of identifying those two separate things. So what I'm actually going to do here is a couple things. I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to take the curve, and I think I'm going to, let's see, if I resample the input curve, can I reverse it? I can't, but I think I can just do this. Should just be able to do a reverse here. And there we go. I think that will do it. And if I take, and I need to just now unset this, invert tangent. And I can take this circle and move it over. So should be able to do that. I'm just going to visualize this curve here. So let's just take this over. Just move it over here maybe. Okay. And I'm going to make this circle a little smaller as well, just to kind of keep them a little bit more in their little group there. And so now I think, yep, there we go. So now we've got them moving along to the end here, and cool. So now we've got this sort of happening. That's great. Let's see if we randomize these. Yep. So if we randomize these with 1 and do a goal of -1, we could animate this and say from this to, maybe we'll do it to 120. We'll see how fast this goes. And I think here we're going to need to go to 2 in order to get that to go. Usually that just means that we have to kind of overshoot that attribute, right, by that amount. So let's see here. I'm just going to do that. See how that goes. Okay, that looks good. And I'm just going to, oops. Hello? What did I hit there? That's what it was. Middle mouse click is what I wanted to do to slide this down. And I'm also going to click on this and just change this here to linear. There's a way to change that in the animation editor as well, but this will work just fine. So I'm just going to slow this down, make sure we're, ooh, yeah. We're really moving here. Let me see here. The other thing we could do is do a solver. And this one's going to be a little bit different. What this is going to do is actually animate it along with a certain speed, right? And so what we could do here is we could randomize the speed a little bit less, maybe 0.5. This is going to randomize it along like that. Let's see if we slow it down even a little more. Yeah, so you could do it either way, right? You could do it as a solver. You could do it the simple mode as well. I actually think that this simple mode is going to work maybe a little better for us. We'll see here. Goal. All right, so let's set this back to maybe 0.75. And then we'll do the same thing here, negative 0.75 and that be 1.75? I think. And maybe what we should do is just shorten this spiral a little bit. So, let me see here. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do 2 turns instead of 3. And then we'll just change this a little bit, and we should be able to get it pretty much right back to where it was before. And so I'm just trying to get the end of this spiral to be where these groups of balloons are here, right? So let's take a look at this again here and see what we've got. So what we're going to do with these is we're going to have them be like a simulation, right? We're going to have them be like randomly simulating, right? So this is not going to be the final look of them, right? With them just sticking up like that. But we can see how we can start to get some really interesting animations from something like MOPs here. Because this is obviously something a bit... this would be kind of tricky to set up on your own, right? Outside of MOPs. And I should say that this is just the free tools. This is not anything paid that we're dealing with right now. This is simply the free tools that come with MOPs. So there's certainly a lot of kind of interesting things that could be done with even just the free tools. Maybe what I'll do is change this to be a little, change this to be a little longer. I'm just changing my timeline down here if you can't see it. And let's go here. Maybe I'll also change this. The number of turns here. Maybe I'll just have it do 1 turn. That's fine. Yeah. It's kind of interesting still. And then that way it's a little bit slower. The reason that it's going so fast is obviously because the curve, the longer the curve is, and we're saying like basically where's the goal that it's trying to get to, and we're trying to get them to go from the beginning all the way to the end, right? So, anyways, I think that will work a little bit better. The other thing we could do as well here too is we could go into this and we could change the attachment here, and we could change the offset ramp, right? So we could do this where these are all starting from more or less the same spot. They could kind of increase a bunch and then decrease back down when they get to the end. So we could do something like this where they're kind of all in line, then they spread out a little bit, and then they kind of all come back down to be all sort of together again here. And we can see we can adjust this here. We could also even increase the offset, right? So we could really let them go kind of wild there and then come back in too. So we could actually double the offset that they originally had, right? So this at first, we could have it be it's pretty close, then get wider and back. So here we could change this to be something like we change the curve type here to be, I don't know, monotone cubic would be fine, I guess. And then that'll be like a little bit of a smoother way of doing it than like a linear interpolation. So here they're spreading out in the middle and then kind of coming back down at the very end. So it's kind of an interesting way of doing that. The other thing that we could do as well is change the banking. However, hey Lucas, welcome, Mr. Crossfader. The other thing we could do as well is adjust the banking on this. Now, since we're going to be sending it into a simulation, and what I'd like to do is have the very base of it, like the root of this this hair or this string, be fixed. Changing the orientation of it isn't really going to help us very much, right? So like we could do twists on this, right? So we could do like this where they'll go around and twist, as they come back to their final resting place. Rest in peace. So you could do this, right? You could do something like that. And it's kind of interesting, I guess. But since we're dealing with just the root point and they're rotating around that, it's not really going to change a whole lot from that standpoint. The other thing you can do is the banking. And I think what that's going to do is kind of, it's going to add in this like orientation to it, right? So it's going to kind of bank along this curve. So that's kind of fun. The only thing that's not great about that is it sort of starts out and then it just stays banked, right? So it's like, it's fine. Like it's good if you want to do that, right? Like that obviously makes sense. But in this case, it really doesn't help us at all. So just something interesting to, to take a look at. And that's another thing you could do too. You could kind of center it that way and have them come in a bunch like that. You could snap the centroid to the start of it, something like that. There's a few different modes and operations here, but I think this will do us just fine. Something like this where they'll kind of spread out and then come back together. We'll see how that sort of works in the long run here. We kind of have this little bunch of balloons here, and maybe what we could do is, let me see if this has any fall off set on it. No, it doesn't. So I'm kind of wondering if we could do fall off, spline fall off. Yep. So here's our packed primitives. here's our spline, right? So not distance to spline, maybe curve position. Yeah, cool. Okay, so that's going to work. So what we could do here is to start this off. So what I'm doing here with this spline fall off is I'm going to start it so that these start kind of spread apart, right? So we're going to start them spread apart. In fact, it doesn't actually even really matter about this, but we can do some interesting things with this, right? So what we could do is we could do a let's see, we could do a MOPs transform modifier. So we could do one of these, and then oh, sorry, nope, sorry, MOPs randomize, and we could kind of randomize the orientation of them a little bit. I'm going to turn these down slightly so we can get them like that, and then like that. So we could kind of like spread them out like this to start, right? We could do something like this to change their sort of start behavior here. We could kind of find a seed where they're relatively spread apart, you know, something like that. And now I believe that as this goes along, interesting. Yeah, they'll become less and less randomly rotated, basically, which is kind of interesting because now it's sort of similar to the way that the other one worked, and it is randomizing it. Let's see here. Let's see. Does that do it for us? No. I'm just trying to think how this would work here. Because it's changing as it's moving, it looks like the randomness is sort of changing, I think. Or did I leave the twist in there? I might have. No, I didn't. Well, anyways, we could do something like that. But really, all we need to do now that I'm thinking of it is just sort of randomize based on their like original position like this. Because it doesn't really matter once they start, because they're going to be sort of in the simulation. And so should be totally fine once that starts off. So maybe we'll just leave it like that, sort of. And we can maybe make this circle just a little bit bigger. Maybe something like that. Cool. So, so we've set our pivot. We've got our things moving along their spline here. We could do the MOPs randomized to kind of give them a little bit of an interesting start position for those balloons. There is a MOPs relax modifier, and I can't remember how exactly this will work. I believe that this is going to try to really move these apart quite a bit. Yeah, so that's going to work based on the root point, I believe. So if we turned this off, you'll see how this works a little differently. And so, you know, we can see how this is relaxing these so that they're not falling, you know, their orients aren't going above each other or whatever. But yeah, so if we take this and kind of control the radius of it here, instead of trying to auto compute it, we could do something like that. And that's starting to give us a bit more interesting results, right? And just thinking about how we could maybe do this differently too. what we could do is we could take this. Here, let's play around with this a little. So we could take this, we could relax it so that these aren't kind of on top of each other. Something like that, maybe. Cool. And then we could take the MOPs pivot, and instead of bringing it to the bottom, we could bring it to the top. Let's see. Yep, and we could do this. We could do align to bounding box, and we could do a positive like that. And then if we randomize that a little bit, we should have different... Just trying to think of how to make this work here. Could have the strings kind of start in a different place. Well, maybe what we'll do instead, because we could try to get the bottom of this to kind of match, but this actually might be better. So let's try this, and we'll take this randomize out of here. I don't think we need that. Let's take this, change it back to the root. Hi, Jamal. Yeah, welcome to the stream. Good question. Is the side effects internships open for global? Well, right now, the way that the internship process works is that in order to be a part of the internship, you'd either need to be located in the Los Angeles or Toronto office. That doesn't mean that you can't move there, but that is part of it. Now, the internship is paid, so you're not moving across the oceans or whatever for free. But yeah, that's kind of how the internship program works currently. And the reason for that is that, we want to make sure that the interns are having, a good, as good of a experience as we possibly can as far as like in-office experience. So that's part of the reasoning there. All right, so let's just change this a little bit so they'll start sort of separate the way they are there. We'll just relax these maybe a little bit more. All right. Yeah, no problem, Jamal. Hopefully that's not the... I'm, sorry if that's not the news you're looking for, but it's it's the kind of the current setup. So it's kind of how it's going for now. Okay, so what I'm going to actually do is change this around a little bit. Oh, right. That's why that was changing. It's like, why is that not doing what I wanted to? It's because I had the ramp on. So I think what we're going to do is start them like this. We're going to bring them in a little closer so they're sort of all going in a line. And then we'll have them kind of come back into a little bunch at the end. So we'll do it like that. So now it should go like this, and they'll sort of go into a line. Oops. Hey, Kenji, welcome to the stream. Good to have you. All right, so we've got these things that are moving along like this. Should be kind of interesting to see how this all works. Cool. So we should have a little bunch of balloons there at the end. At least that's the goal. So we have these right now. And let's see here. Just trying to think of how I want to do this. All right, so we've got our relax modifier, our pivot, move along spline. What we could do, we want these to each have their own kind of unique like name attribute or something that we can use to make sure that the Vellum system knows that these are separate pieces of geometry, right? So what we would do here is we would do an unpack at this point here so that we're back to having geometry, right, to regular geometry. And So we animate this along. It'll basically look exactly the same, except now we're back to actual, selectable geometry here. These balloons actually could probably be a little less meshed, a little too heavy maybe. So let's bring that down a little. Let's do maybe 6. I don't know. Let's do 6. That's great. Okay, so we've got our animation here, and I'm just going to say, actually, I'll just say a null, put a null down here, and we'll go with out balloon. I'm not sure what you mean by the prim UV offset. I think you're saying that, yeah, you would do a prim UV lookup on that curve normally outside of using MOPs maybe. And if you do that, then that's totally fine. I mean, that's a way to you could probably do that. The only thing we're doing here that's nice is that we're keeping everything, there's a lot of tools that are all kind of built to work in the same type of vein, right? So it's just a very different way it's just a little bit of a different way of working. So, but yeah, you could certainly probably do there's other ways of doing this, right, without using MOPs for sure. I kind of think that's what you're saying there. Excuse me. Got a tickle in my throat. Sorry. Oh, the joys of being sick from time to time. Cool. Okay, cool. That's kind of what I thought you were mentioning. But yeah, you could do it. You can do this certainly other ways. It's just a way to kind of help people that are maybe a little bit new to Houdini understand some of how to make these, some of these things work. Oh, another thing I should do probably before we get any further here is go back to our balloon. We have our string group, but I also want the pin group. So let's do this. Let's do another group by range. And I'm going to do this over points. And we'll call this pins. And we can do this down there to that point. And if I just invert the range, it'll only take that first point down there. So that's going to get all packed up and duplicated here when we do all of our fun, fancy stuff that we do here. And from there, if we take it up here, we'll say make another geometry node here. I'm just going to hide these guys and call this one sim balloons. And this will be where our actual simulation works. So let's do another object merge. And I'm just trying to do this in a little bit of like a more organized way where we have each of our different like little things happening in an isolated section. So I could say get balloon animation. Yes, I have done the Houdini challenges before. Yeah, I did that a few years ago. I've done them like randomly through the stream, and the reason I'm using the spiral is because today is spiral. So, so that's part of why I'm doing that as well. All right, so what we're going to do here is unpack this. If I can type. So we're going to unpack that. And what actually, before we do this, let's do something to get, so we can see here we have our pin group. We should also have our balloon and string group, so that's great. The one thing I need to do, though, is maybe get some different names on each of these so that these each have their own names. So let me think of how we want to do that. Can we do this? Yeah, we could do this. All right, so let's just do it this way. I think this should work. No, you don't bother me at all. No, I love it. I love any comments and all comments. Happy to answer anything we can. So I'm going to do a couple things here. First of all, I'm going to can this be an integer? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an enumerate here. So I'm just going to give these all, or these should all actually have an ID attribute. Right, they do. So that's fine. So what we can do here is we're going to give the piece attribute, we're going to say point. Oh, why is that angry at me? What are we doing here? Okay, sorry, just seeing why we have some errors here. What are our errors? What am I doing? Group type is primitives, right? So that's right. The piece attribute is ID. So, oh, right. I just need to transfer that attribute. So let's transfer that over. Will that work now? No. What am I doing wrong here? Wonder if I could just use an assemble instead. Let's try this. This will probably just work. This will probably work just fine. Okay, so we'll just do this over the balloon. Yeah. Forget the enumerate. We'll just do the assemble. We'll do a couple of those just to get some names and things like that set in here. So you can see here that this is calling these piece 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, blah, blah. What we're going to do instead is call this balloon underscore. So now we have balloons all there. Those are all in the balloon group. So that's great. They all have different names. And then I'm going to do another one just to assemble the other part. We're going to do that over the string. We can call that string. Like that. So now we should have the balloons and the strings. So those are great. We've got that all figured out. Cool. The reason I'm doing that is just so that we have, separate, separate names for all of these pieces and things like that. So the only thing I'm going to probably have to change here is that I've got all these point attributes that are IDs, and that Vellum is not going to like. Because there's going to be multiple chunks there's going to be multiple pieces that have the same point ID. So I'm going to just delete that. Attribute delete now that we've got that ID. And I'm just going to delete the ID attribute. Jamal asked me, what do you think for what is fast-growing market, movies or gaming? Well, I can say for sure right now that the games industry is really hurting. They've had a lot of layoffs recently. And so that's been kind of a bummer to see. I think both industries are in a little bit of a weird spot right now because there's been, I know, I know that Lucas works over in the games industry there, and it's been rough. So, but there's also last year there's strikes in the film industry as well. So I think this has been just this really strange year. I think things will pick back up, but I think a lot of games companies might have overstretched themselves a little bit. And in order to make things look better for investors, they've cut a lot of numbers. And there's probably going to be a rebound at some point where they're going to be like, shoot, now we don't have anybody to do the work that we need to do, because I don't think video games are going anywhere. It's just that maybe there was too many hires made. So, I'm not a business person. I can't really speak to that. But yeah, I think both have their pros and cons, but certainly the games industry, it seems like every week there's a new, this company's laying off a bunch of people. This company's laying off a bunch of people. So it's a little sad time for that, for sure. But hopefully we'll be coming out on the other side of that, not too far in the future. But anyways, yeah, that's my 2 cents. Not that it's worth very much, but okay. So we've got this system going here. And let's start turning this into some stuff that we can work with. So let's do a Vellum balloon, configure balloon. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that balloon group here. So we're going to set this up to balloon and balloon here. And now we should have Vellum balloon groups. These should be acting as Vellum balloons now. And if we did a Vellum solver here, now this obviously will not do what we want it to yet, but let's just take a look here. So if we were to do this, they should fall down. Obviously the strings, I don't know why the strings are in there yet. Probably just because they're in there in general, they're going to simulate, but let's set a ground position here. I'm just going to blast those out for right now, just so we don't have those extra things in there. So let's get the strings out of there for right now. And then let's see what happens here. There's our balloons, right? They're doing their thing. Probably should set a little more pressure on them, right? So let's do a little more pressure here. And let's up the stiffness a little as well. Went a little too far. Let's do maybe 1.5 for the rest length scale. Cool, there we go. We got some balloons going. All right, so that's good. Now let's see if we can't get our strings to work here. So let's unblast those real quick. Let's do a Vellum string. No. We'll do a Vellum configure hair, and then we'll change it over to strings. I think that I can never remember the difference between the two. There's one that has there's one that has like orientation constraints and one that doesn't. I think the string one has orientation constraints, so I think that'll be good for us. But there's actually something we'll need to do with the string as well, so we'll just leave that for right now. But there you go. You can see we've got some strings now sticking out in the middle of there, kind of freaking out a little. So that we need to obviously address. The other thing that we should do is here we should get our pins. We've got our pin points, so we can do that, and we'll match the animation of those. So now we should see that our strings are shooting along. Now I think they're underneath this, so that's kind of weird. I think they're like stuck in some of those guys there. So they're trying to like snap out of it, but let's see here. Let's just give it a few more sub-steps here. Maybe a few more constraint iterations and just see if that doesn't help us a little. Yeah, I think they're just getting stuck underneath there, so that's kind of what we're seeing, and then they're snapping back and stuff like that. But we can see that the roots of the strings are moving properly, and when these balloons are sort of doing the right thing, we won't be getting this weird stretching kind of behavior, but we can see how they're getting pulled and all that kind of stuff. So that's great. And I think what we could do here too is instead of having our gravity go down, we could have it, or we could, we could do some built-in wind, maybe going up. So let's see here. So let's see. We'll just do it in the up direction. We could speed that up, but let's see. Do we need to do this at 10? Will that make this work? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, they're floating away. That's a pretty good sign. Okay, cool. Let's see. Can we do it at 5? I'm just curious what level will actually have these go up. Yeah, no, definitely not. Let's do, what, if 9.9, does that like, yeah, that's cool. Let's see. About 9. Will that go up? I don't want it to be too fast that it's trying to go up in the air. So let's see here. Oh. Yeah, let's do like 8. That should be interesting. Okay, so obviously we can all see that there's one main thing happening here that we need to fix, and that's that those aren't connected together. So that's the other thing that we need to work on here. So let's play around with that. So let's go back up to our geometry here, and since this is Houdini, right? Everything's going to flow down through that setup we just made because we pack all of our geometry when we get to our MOPs stage here, right? Whether you're using the instancer or a copy to points, all that information that we're setting inside of each of those individual balloons is getting kind of packed in. Then we're manipulating it, duplicating it, animating it, do all that stuff through MOPs here. And then we're unpacking it for our simulation over here, right? At this point. So that is... yeah, exactly. It's not connected for sure. So what I want to do is I just want to have a point attach it there. And actually, I think what I want to do as well is give it just a really, really, really tiny bit of distance here. Just so that we're not like running into weird collision-y stuff. So let's see. Maybe like that'll be fine. That should be probably enough. Just giving it a little offset to that. Spacing. So then the other thing I want to do is I'm going to do another group by range here and say maybe connect here. And instead we'll just change this to 1 on that end, and that'll be that point there. So now we should be good. We have our connect points up at the top. We can use that as kind of a group to connect to our balloon. So let's go in here and we can, let's see. I'm just going to change these. So the reason I'm changing those just to make them a little more easy to read is that if we go under our constraint geometry here, we'll actually see that the tags get pulled in from these names of these nodes. So we can see that those are all created. Those are all constraints that are created by the balloon shell. This is the balloon string. And then if we go up, there should be 1. That's the pressure. Boop, 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 boop. Hey, welcome. Welcome from North America. Glad to have you all the way from Turkey. That's fantastic. You're quite a ways away from me. Hope you're having a great, probably early morning Saturday. Hope it's going well for you. Maybe late, maybe, yeah, it's got to be early morning. It's going to be really crazy. So here's all our balloon pressure right here. Night. Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be late there. Anyways, so let's add another one here. We'll do a Vellum. Can we do Vellum glue? Yeah, there we go. So we'll do a Vellum glue constraint here. And we can see right now that this is trying to glue all these balloons together, which is not what we want. So let's do this. Let's say we want to have our start geometry. We'll say that's going to be the connect. And then we'll have our target be the nearest, geometry to it. And what I'll do is I'll have a couple constraints per point. So we'll do like 3 of them there. And that way we just got a good amount of stuff that's kind of constrained. So it's not just one point that's pulling on it. If you were working with larger stuff, you might need to change your search distance a little bit, but here we're pretty good. So let's try that. Oh, fun little trick that I found. If you hold down, normally if you select everything and hold A and then drag like this, it's going to kind of reorganize them all. But if you want to distribute them, you can select them all and do Alt A, and it'll actually spread them out in like so that they're all spaced accordingly. So like if I move this one, if I move this one way down and then do, let's see here, Alt A. No, is that? Just see if that works. I think you have to select them all, and then you do Alt A. It'll like distribute them evenly along that space. So it's pretty cool. I really like that. That was something I found in the documentation. I wasn't reading the documentation, but I was looking through it for something and found that. So Jamal asking another question about AI. Interesting. Yeah, Alt A is a great one. I don't know if you've used that before, but it's fantastic. I love it. So for me, I'm not a big proponent of generative AI. I find typing text and getting images really silly. I don't really enjoy that at all. Find it very boring and doesn't fulfill me in any way, shape, or form. So that's just me, not interested, like not my thing. I think in order to have faster machine learning algorithms, yes, I think that could be a future for sure. If not, faster simulations, it would certainly be good for faster previews of simulations, right? Like that could be a really good way to do something like machine learning, where you don't have to simulate, you run it through an algorithm that says this is more or less what it's going to, not an algorithm, but a machine learning, setup that's been trained on a bunch of Vellum simulations, for example, and it knows how the Vellum cloth behaves. And you're like, hey, how is this going to look when I animate it this way? Oh, okay, here's what my cloth is going to look like. Now, the amount of computational power that is used in a single like Vellum simulation like that, and all of this intricacies and collisions and all that kind of stuff, I think it's really hard to predict that on oh, we'll just run it through a machine learning thing and it'll be solved. Like, I don't know if that's going to be the case. I think there certainly are going to be uses for it. Personally, I'm not that smart with it. I know people that are much smarter than me that I've heard, them have their questions about if you could have a whole procedural network be generated from an image or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, because the amount of parameters in that space is crazy, I guess. So anyways, I think it'll start to be more helpful. But personally, it's not something I see happening like tomorrow or anything like that. But I think in individual use cases, I think it could be something that could happen. So I don't know. I think I'm interested in, hey, is there a way to see what this setup would do faster with simulation? Like what it would eventually look like in a simulation? Yes, I think that's cool because you have all the control, you have all of the art directability that you have here. And then you could start to preview it and say, oh yeah, that's starting to do what I think it should be doing. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's run it through a Vellum solver. Like basically everything I've done up to this point could maybe be like a machine learning inference or something like that, where it's just going to be showing you, kind of frame by frame what it would assume this simulation would do. And then when we get back here, then we're going to go, okay, yeah, let's now do all these really, kind of heavy, things or whatever. What is this doing? That's stretching and breaking. What's going on here? Hold on a second. Okay. What are we doing here? Let's see. Interesting. doesn't seem to be... Yeah, no problem, no problem. Why are we getting this here? Careful with posting. Oh, there you go. Hey, that worked in Twitch. Yeah, the the AI. I saw you post that, Lucas. That's pretty funny. It's pretty good. I like that. It's pretty ridiculous. Ah, big issue in mass. Okay, yeah, interesting. I'll take a look at that. Bum, bum, bum. Let's see. I got to be on the solver to actually see it do anything, right? Well, it's sort of doing some stuff now, but now we're getting some interpenetration issues, so we got to fix that. That's okay. We can fix that. All right, let's go back to our MOPs relax modifier and just adjust this a little more so that we're actually apart from each other to begin. Let's double check this animation and make sure it's actually working still. Yeah, looks like it's working. Cool. Nice. And obviously we had this all procedural because we're using MOPs to do it, so that's really nice. Yeah, I think the problem, you're right, Jamal. I think it was a mass issue. And actually, one thing that's interesting here is that the string was really low mass, like really low density, and the cloth was actually not the calculate varying. It was, or no, I think it was on some other one. It was like set uniform or something. And we actually want to do calculate uniform. So that's interesting. We might want to look at that. Yeah, there we go. I think that's starting to do what we want it to. So what now I'm seeing is that the mass needs to really get, or the wind speed needs to get adjusted. So let's do this. Let's do this like 9.5. So we've got a nice upward pull here that's going to be happening, hopefully. Let's see. If we give us, I just want to see if I'm have enough wind speed pushing up on this just to make sure that we're not having them fall down. Yeah. They're like getting tangled with each other. Interesting. So we still have some interpenetration there, which I'm a little surprised by. Where is that? Well, it's probably over here somewhere. Okay. We'll give it a little more relaxation. There we go. Hopefully that'll work. Ah, those are still connected. Dang it. All right, let's take a look at that. Ba-ba-bum. Well, what I could do here... Oh, it's from the move along spline. That's why. Okay, that's what's happening. So I'm just going to change this spline just a little bit here so that we don't have that first one. Because what it's doing is it's like kind of trying to snap that first one into its spot. No, it looks like it was still intersecting there a little bit at the beginning, unfortunately. So I think that's the issue. Yeah, there is definitely a like interpenetration kind of thing that it can do, but that should not. Yep, there we go. Now we're in the clear. Great. They're getting yanked around. Cool. Let's see how this goes. Obviously a little frenetic from all of the balloons kind of getting whacked around and stuff like that. The other thing that I'll have to figure out the forces and stuff like that to play around with here, but we'll see what makes sense. But this is cool. They're all kind of getting into their little end position here and sort of just chilling there in a little bunch. Might be too overinflated, the balloons as well, so that might be part of it. Could probably reduce that. Let me see here. What's going on there? Why are we getting these like... Oh, I wonder if that's like actual wind noise that's going on in there. Really looks like it. Looks like something's blowing around in there. Okay. Maybe the wind has... let's turn this off. Built-in wind. Let's turn it off. Let's just see if we can do the gravity first. Let's just try that out. See if that works any better. Yeah, it looks like that's not giving us any crazy setups here. So let's try that. It'll probably be better in this situation. So obviously we've got some weird little like tangly type things happening here. So kind of a little strange that we're getting these like strings that are getting yanked by the balloons and stuff like that. Probably if we had a couple more substeps, we won't run into that problem quite as much. Just kind of let it do its thing here. Yeah, kind of wacky. I don't know. It's something. I think they're all twisting around each other because they're getting like... Yeah. Yeah, they are. They're like twisting there. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, so they're obviously all kind of bouncing around in there and things like that. Let's do something here. Let's actually just turn that down just for now. I think it'll be okay. Just would like it to run a little quicker. It's like nature. Yeah, kind of. So what if instead we didn't want it to be random? I wonder if we could. Let's go back over here. Maybe instead of it being random, let's unrandomize that and see what happens here. Yeah, it all happens at the same time. So Okay. I think what we could do is this. Let's give this a shot. So let's do a MOPs fall off. And let's see here. We can do this. I'll always do this the wrong way, I'm sure. Let's try this. Yep, that does work. Cool. All right, so what we could do instead of it just being completely random, let's do this. So we'll take a MOPs fall off here. And what we can do here is we can use this to drive our animation. So this should be pretty cool. So let's do this. Let's change this to translate there. So we'll start it there. And maybe by like, I'm just going to change a couple things here. Yep, cool. So now we're driving this movement along the spline with this fall off attribute, right? So if we do this, we can see that that's going to control that there. So let's just click this and we'll change these all to linear. You can do this in the animation editor as well. As if you middle click on that, you can highlight these, change them to linear. There we go. So the reason I'm changing them to linear is so that we don't have them like speeding up along the way. Like that would be kind of annoying. I'm going to middle click this actually. And I'm going to set this back because it is going a little too fast. So let's just grab this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remap it. So what we can do here is we can do a, I don't think this is going to work unless we have the fit going. Let me just go back here. And let's select each of those. And we'll do, I guess it doesn't really matter. Monotone is probably a little better. I don't think that's, yeah, it's not going to do it. So let's do fit. And that should enable all of this. So now they should speed up, and then slow back down again. So now this should be quite a bit more ordered. They shouldn't get all tangled. And let's see what happens. So there we go, using MOPs to control our stuff here. So let's see what we get. It's going to be a much more orderly effect, but we won't have all that weird tangling and stuff like that that was happening before. So now obviously this is much cleaner. And I think what I'm going to do too is I'm going to change the pressure constraint here. So let's change this to be 1,000 and let's change this to be 1.25. Just don't want it to be quite as like solid. I want it to have a little bit of like give as they like bump into each other. We'll see. Maybe we need to even just set that back down again. Yeah, I think this is starting to do more or less what we were wanting it to do. A little more orderly. A little less crazy. And then we got a fun little bunch of balloons at the end, too. Just floated their way into position. All right, let's do a little flip book of this and we can kind of see what's going on here. Yeah, there we go. Got our little balloons floating and bumping into each other and stuff here. Kind of cool. Another thing we could probably do here is if we wanted to make this maybe a little more interesting in another way, we could go back. So, oh, cool. Lame. Not cool, lame. Bad Houdini. All right. Let's do that. We'll reopen. Yeah, it looks nice. It looks very nice. I'll just reopen that in a second. All right. Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to resave this as the right one. There we go. Okay. So what I was thinking was now let's play around with this a little bit. So what we could do here is we could, so this is our animation right now. So now this is our, our animation. So it's just really pretty straightforward here, right? So now maybe we'll use the fall off, spline fall off. Maybe this is a better place to use it. So we'll do this. So that's the spline. So now we're going to have curve position. So now these fall offs are going to change based on where they are along that spline. Let's reverse it. So it's going to be at 0. Then it'll start to go up and then we'll get to 1 basically. We'll just have to probably fit that or whatever, but that's fine. You can see down here, these attributes are changing. That's where I'm seeing that. So each of them are getting different fall off values as they go along that. So maybe what we can do here, I'm just going to move this over a little just so we clean this up a little like that. Cool. All right. So let's do a MOPs. Is there a noise modifier? Yeah, let's do that. Not random, but noise. Let's do noise. So we're going to affect the position based on the fall off. So let's do this. Let's see what happens here. So it should go crazy and get crazier and crazier and crazier all the way to the end, right? So that's cool. But let's change this a little bit here. Let's go into this spline and actually remap it, right? So let's fit it. We'll go up here like this. So we'll give it a little like fall off like this, maybe like that. And now this fall off is going to go, instead of along the spline getting higher and higher, it's going to start off relatively low. It'll get a bit higher. And I'm going to select these all and do monotone cubic. So they should start off relatively straight, then get more and more. Then they should all come to rest in their spot there. And I'm going to change this and kind of figure out where I want this to stop. So probably we'll have this stop. You can see they're kind of getting back onto their points there. So that's cool. And then we'll let this kind of go a little back like that as well. So here they'll start off straight. Then they'll start swirling around. Now that's too much, but we can obviously play around with that. So let's see what we can get here. So we've got our position. So let's just adjust this so we're not getting quite as much positional freak out. And let's see here. Yeah, that's what we want. We want time varying. So we'll just give it some time-based animation here. Not sure which one is actually kind of hard to tell. Let's turn the frequency down. There we go. That's kind of what I wanted, something like that. So let's see. And I don't want it to go in Y really at all. So I think if I set it to 0 in the Y, that'll be good. I think that'll mainly keep them. Yeah, that's going to keep them all pretty full. Oh, cool. Effect with stairs revealing using a spiral node. That's cool. Yeah, that's a great idea. Stairs revealing. I always like cool reveal effects. That's great. All right, I think we're probably pretty good with that. Let's see here. Maybe I'll give it just a little more positional effect. Yeah, it's kind of fun. All right, let's give that a shot. See what that looks like in the simulation. So let's go back over here and let's roll it. Let's see what happens here. The beautiful thing of Houdini, right? Where you can just tweak some animation parameters and throw it back into the sim and see what happens, because we got the sim all kind of more or less working the way we want it to. So that's great. Now you could obviously do this with like emitting balloons if you wanted to into the sim, or emitting whatever into a sim and controlling it like this. You know, there's a lot of different options obviously for how you might go about doing this. It's getting crazy. Let's see. Let's play it and see what's going on here. You know what? I actually wonder if I want to have those bee hair instead of string, because it looks like they're just spinning, which is really not what I wanted to do. So maybe I want to do that. It looks like they're all just kind of spinning on themselves. Well, let's stop this for a second here. String, let's change it to hair. I think that'll all stay the same roughly. Yep. Yep, definitely has orientation. Let's see if that will do it. Add a new sequence in here and check it again. Yep. That looks right. Looks like well, I don't know. It is still spinning. Interesting. I guess it could also be the glue constraint, maybe. Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's like the root of the now hairs are staying kind of oriented the same way right here. So that's part of what the difference is between the two as well. That must have been what I was thinking of. Well, I'm sure there's a way to fix that, but this isn't a Vellum course, right? We're here to talk a bit more about, how we can use, MOPs to kind of control some of these simulation, elements and things like that. Obviously, you could do a lot of different things with this, right? You could change their positions, you can change their orientations, you could do all sorts of random things with them, right? And since we now have that fall off along the curve, right, we could keep doing that as much as we wanted to and kind of tweaking different attributes with it. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's fine. There's nothing super crazy about what's going on here, but it gives you an idea of how you could control some of these things in ways that, especially as an artist, that might be a little more friendly to you than going in and tweaking code or that type of thing. I think it's an interesting, different way of looking at, working in Houdini. So, where we have a little bit more, control over these things with, fall offs and stuff like that we maybe could be used to from cinema or other programs and stuff like that. So, I think that's probably where we'll end this stream here, or at least start wrapping it up. I think we got a pretty cool little effect out of it. And obviously we could sit here and tweak parameters all night and stuff like that. But, you could do a lot of things with this. You could do stuff where they change color as they're moving along that. You could change scales and different things like that. However, that would be a little bit trickier because we're talking about, Vellum, right? A Vellum simulation. And that, again, goes into the idea of the difference between SOPs and DOPs, right? And what Henry had mentioned before. Really, the difference here is that when you're working in a DOP network, the only thing that we're updating on this frame by frame is the very root point of this. That is the only thing we're updating. Everything else is staying the same. It's all just frame by frame manipulation of that data that started this simulation. So we're not updating any of the data that comes into this simulation to begin it. So that really is the big difference between SOPs and DOPs. But also why it's really nice to be able to animate with something like a MOP follow, from curve. However, if we wanted to apply this to the balloon, it would be a little bit of a different process, because we wouldn't want to pin the balloon in place and have it move around. It wouldn't simulate. So we'd want to give it some flexibility. That's where some of the MOPs Plus tools would come in. We've done some of that stuff in the past. So, that's certainly a cool thing to take a look at. But I think we've got kind of an interesting look into how we can use, these different elements from this, right? We've got all of our animation basically controlled through MOPs. Like, we didn't touch anything other than doing some stuff with the with MOPs modifiers and fall offs and things like that. So, and we could have certainly started with this MOPs instancer here, done something with this that made more sense, if we did a different orientation, if we wanted a grid or something. Like, you could use this for sure. Like, there's no reason why you couldn't do this. And then some of these things like this enumerate here wouldn't even be needed. You would just shoot it right in here and we'd be all set. So some things to think about. We could certainly change how we do this. I'm probably going to get rid of that there, just so we're not too confused about what's going on here. But I think this is pretty neat too. I mean, like, the fact that you can relax these objects in space using just this relax modifier is really nice. In fact, we might, you could always, relax them more, less, whatever. It's just very nice. And yeah, I turned on this relax in 3D space to be able to do that. But this relax modifier is really nice as well. It's kind of cool. Anyways, thank you guys all so much for watching. I think that'll probably wrap us up here and start to get us to the end of things. Again, I did use the spiral today because spiral node, because that is what we were using for, or that's what the what do you call it? The Mardini first day is spiral. So there we go. I did a little Mardini setup there, but yeah, thank you guys all so much for joining. There won't be a MOPs stream next week since we did one this week, so I try to do that every other. And we'll see what we get up to. If anybody would like to join the Discord server, please join at HoudiniHangout.com. There's an invite link there. I see people kind of hopping in there all the time, so it's always cool to have new people around. Lots of really knowledgeable people have made their way in there from time to time, so if you have questions, it's always a great place to ask. And obviously there's other Discord servers to ask as well, so it's not the only place. But if you want a bit of a quieter one, I mean, there's not that many people in there, so you can kind of get a little bit of a quieter setup there to ask and answer some of your questions. But if you have any suggestions for what we should do in the future, you can also put a suggestion there as well. Always interested to look at those and see what people want to learn more about. Another thing too, I've been, drop them in there, Lucas. I always want to know what you're interested in. You've got some cool ideas. So always curious. So one thing I'm planning on doing at some point this year, I've mentioned this before, is at some point I'm going to be building a new computer this year. I'm going to put this in the Discord, but I'm really curious if anybody is interested in me showing how I build the computer. I'm probably going to be busy doing that for like a week or so. So like I could just hang out and do that like during a stream time instead. I mean, it's a little weird and off topic, but maybe it'd be fun. I don't know. Something I was thinking about I like making computers anyways, but it's probably going to take me a few days to do and stuff like that. A little under an hour. Jeez, man. How many computers have you made? I mean, I'm not that fast, and I would never trust myself to be that fast. But, if we wanted to, too many. I wish I had the money to make too many. That'd be fun. This was kind of like, hey, is it okay if we don't take a vacation this year and just I get a new computer because I mainly work on a laptop all day. That's a great question. I mean, my plan right now is I love building computers. I think it's fun. I just don't get a chance to very often, but my plan at the moment is a AMD 7970. That's the upgrade from the computer I'm on right now. That's like the new generation of that. And I really like this computer a lot. It's been really great for me. So I'd like to upgrade to that. I have a 3090 right now, so I'm thinking probably 4090 is my guess. Really, Houdini doesn't, other than, oh man, yeah, I really lucked out because I think the 3000 series is one of their best, like, it's of the Threadrippers that they've released so far, before this last generation, like the 1 and 2000 series, like, were so much more limited in what they could do to the 3000 series. I really lucked out with when I got this. I think this computer has lasted me now 4 years that I'm sitting on. So, oh, cool. Well, welcome, Razvan. You don't have to promise me anything. I'm always just happy to have people hanging out. So, it's cool. And yeah, great. I'm glad it was helpful for you, and hopefully, get some, I think everybody on this stream could probably make much more interesting looking stuff than I make, but hopefully it inspires you to do something, and kind of push it and do something different. I saw Crossfader did something that was inspired from what I did on Wednesday, and it looked super cool and had like colliders and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Really neat. So it's fun. It's fun for me to see people take what I do and you're promising it to yourself. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Oh, you have to pray. Yeah. Wow. The official MOPs account just hit you there. You need sacrifice. It demands a sacrifice. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, so I'm definitely looking at the 4090, I think, is what I'm going to do. I don't think OpenCL really does well with multiple graphics cards, and I don't do enough rendering to justify yeah, Henry coming in hot. I don't have enough rendering that I do to justify multiple 4090s, which I'd probably have to do like the liquid one so you could actually fit them together, since they're so gigantic. But anyways, that's my plan for those. And I definitely want a lot of RAM because it's just nice to have a lot of RAM. This one has 128, so I'm going to like, yeah, the A6000. If I had the money, that'd be great. I'd love the A6000. That'd be fantastic. But I do not have that kind of money. I have software trainer money. But yeah, so I definitely want to upgrade the RAM. So I think right now a reasonable amount would be like, this one has 128, so I was thinking of going 256, but then I saw, I forget what the next multiple is. There's like 96 gig sticks that you can get, so I'm thinking 4 of those, so that would be like 38, 380 something. So that's my, yeah, I would again the money. So the problem is with these new Threadripper boards is that the non-pro versions only have 4 slots on them, which is really annoying because this one has 8. And I only filled half of them because I was thinking, oh, I'll probably upgrade at some point, which I haven't, which I could, but I'm not going to right now. But anyways, so with 8, yeah, you could probably get up to 1 terabyte pretty easily, but with 4, that's really tricky within a reasonable budget. So, yeah, this is my wife mainly works on this all day. We have our Intuos and all that stuff. And she's got all of her stuff on here, and she does all of her graphic design stuff on this computer all day, which is really funny because she'll do stuff and be like, wow, this is really slowing my computer down. And I'll come over and look, and she'll be like, yeah, 128's great. You really don't often need more than that, but just on the off chance that I do something stupid, I like to have extra. But sometimes there's times where she'll do some crazy big project and like be doing something, be like, wow, this is really slowing down. And I'll be like, really? And I'll come over and look and be like, you're using like 80 gigs of RAM right now. So it's a good thing you're on this computer, because otherwise, yeah, After Effects, oh God. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. Like they've finally made some adjustments to it to make it a bit better. But yeah, After Effects will just suck it all in a second. Yeah. But anyways. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the thing, is that if you're not doing big sims or anything like that, you don't need a ton of RAM. Like, it's really not necessary. And Houdini runs great on a lot of different platforms and programs and stuff like that. Like, you'd be surprised what some of the developers even have for their computers and stuff like that. Like, I'm always like, wow, really? That's all you guys are doing for like development work? I guess it's just basic stuff, but it seems weird. It seems like, wouldn't everybody have monster computers? But no, it's just easy to go along. Honestly, any gaming computer is going to work great for it. But anyways, yeah, Chrome's taking 60 gigs of that. Yeah, Waffle Boy, Tom always says, oh God, I just hate Windows so much. I just want to be on Linux all the time. And I always say, that's great. I would love to be on Linux too, but some of the stuff I use actually only works on Windows, like the Adobe stuff. So, when you need to edit or do something like that, it's like, I don't want to learn some Linux editing program or something. No, that's not that weird. A lot of people love those new Mac Studios. A lot of people love those. I I would really want a more powerful computer than that, but a lot of people swear by them. I know a lot of you know, people that work in Houdini love their M2 and M3 Max, and more power to them, I guess. It's not really something I'm like clamoring for, but hey, you know, if that's what you want, then go for it. Design on the M2, render on the PC. Yeah, that's a thing too. You could do that. Yeah, I've gotten more and more annoyed by the Macs just over time. Like, I used to be a total Mac guy, and as they've kind of closed their ecosystem, it just drives me more and more insane. I can barely stand it. But anyways, cool. Well, I'm glad some people are interested in PC stuff. I guess this kind of devolved into a little bit of a hardware chat. But yeah, maybe I'll post that on the Discord and see what people think. It's not happening anytime soon, but still probably a couple months away. Yeah, I love. Oh yeah, the Intagma guys did those nerd rants. Those are cool. Those are like nerd sessions, or I don't know. They had like computer talk, which was fun. That was a while ago. But anyways, all right, guys. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up there. It's always fun chatting with everybody. It's nice to hear from everybody. And yeah, if you guys have any suggestions or any of that kind of stuff, that's great. Go onto the Discord server, drop them in there, maybe add some images or videos or anything like that. You don't have to try to figure out how to do it or what, you know, whatever. Just say, hey, this looks cool. I'd love to know maybe an idea of how to do this. So, and if I can think of something, I'll give it a shot, or at least the start of something, I'll give it a shot. Sometimes I look at them and I'm like, I don't even know where to start, but if I have an inkling of an idea, I'll give it a try. So anyways, thanks everybody for joining, and we'll be seeing you next Wednesday for another regular Houdini Hangout stream. So thanks everybody. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you all soon. Melt some things. Yeah, it's Houdini. Just melt some things. Bye everybody. On that note, bye.